Can you spot the difference between these two lenses? The ever-popular 50mm Yongnuo f1.8 Mark II, coupled with a Viltrox 0.71x lens mount adapter, and the dazzlingly impressive Sirui 50mm f1.8 Anamorphic. You'd think it's easy to spot the difference, right? But let's see. I'm Haydn Rushworth. I'm a freelance filmmaker, a director and a screenwriter. And today I'm asking if you really need to pay $750 for the shiny new Sirui Anamorphic lens when you can get really similar results with a Canon Nifty 50 on a Viltrox lens adapter. Essentially, this lens that lets you get slightly wider shots than a normal 50mm lens, but it does it without shrinking the background slightly. In the same way that a wide-angle lens would, you know, the teaspoon effect. And this it allows you to retain much more of a natural balanced perspective between foreground and background. It's much closer to the human eye, but it gives you widescreen. And by the way, that really is my personal biggest reason for originally buying the anamorphic lens. It's not the oval bokeh balls or the blue lens flares because, ladies and gentlemen, newsflash, your audience will never notice the shape of your bokeh balls. And they won't notice the difference between natural lens flares from this and lens flares that have been added in post-production on this. Which brings me to the test. Lockdown restrictions have been eased here a little bit in Wales in the UK this week, so I ventured outdoors and met up with my actress friend Lauren to spend a couple of hours filming some test footage with these two lenses on my Panasonic GH5. We're social distancing, by the way. That's what we're doing. We came up with a little cat and mouse style scene about a girl who regularly has to clone herself and kill herself in order to survive. And this simple storyline allowed us to film two versions of Lauren, the cat and the mouse, or the hunter and the prey. So we filmed all of the cat scenes with Lauren in one character with one of these lenses, and all of the mouse scenes with Lauren in the other character with the other of these lenses. But which one was which? See if you can spot it. So tell me, my friends, do you think you know which character was shot with which lens yet? Well, let me give you a clue. It has nothing to do with lens flares. I didn't want to make it too easy, so I added some artificial lens flares in post just to keep you guessing. So do you want to see a few more shots to figure it out? So there it is, my friends, which lens shot which character. The reality is, it's really hard to tell, and that's my point. If I did a half-decent job, you were more interested in the action and the pretty girl than the lens. And ideally, you've had to rewind and pause the video a few times to study the shots carefully in order to even have a chance of spotting the difference. With just a couple of hours in public spaces with no crew, no lights, no costume, props or other team members, Lauren and I relied on composition, careful use of natural light, framing, camera movements on my gimbal, and our imagination in order to craft a short narrative scene that would hopefully captivate an audience. Now during the editing process I added some light vignetting and a fairly basic LUT, and then added some cinematic music courtesy of the absolutely amazing Soundstripe. They're not paying me to say that, I just think that they're great. And after some fast cut editing, there you have it, a couple of short scenes intermixing 2 different lenses. So let me give you one final chance to spot the difference with a top and bottom comparison of stills shots without the vignette or LUT. So which is it? There you have it. We used the cheap Yongnuo for the cat shots and the shiny new Sirui Anamorphic for the mouse shots. I added the lens flare effect that comes for free with Final Cut Pro, dampened down the settings to make it subtle, and this was the result. Almost nobody watching those 2 scenes would ever notice the difference between the lenses, or even care. And that's the real point here. Great filmmaking is almost never about the gear. So the $1 million question, or more precisely the $750 question, am I going to keep this lens or sell it and use the money for something else? Well, before I answer that question, let me tell you this. As a filmmaker, I like to travel light and work fast, and because I have a family to support, I need to squeeze every last ounce of value out of the kit I own. So I'm always aiming for the most cinematically impressive results I can get for the least amount of work, equipment, weight, and cost. Whenever I'm agonizing over gear choices, these are my main questions. Will it solve more problems than it creates? Will the audience or client spot the difference, even if it's subtle? And will the audience or client really care? After seeing how similar the results with this lens are to my old and trusted workhorse combo of Viltrox plus Yongnuo prime lenses, I had to think long and hard about whether to sell it or not. And if those were the only criteria I applied here, frankly, I'd sell the Anamorphic today. However, there's another really important perspective to throw in to this decision-making mix. I bought the Sirui 50mm Anamorphic lens that everybody is making a fuss about because frankly there has never been a cinematic anamorphic lens available at this price before, and if I'm really honest, I just wanted one. I wanted to test it out for myself and see what all the fuss was about. So am I going to keep it? Yeah, flipping too right, I'm going to keep it. You see, for all my cynicism about this lens, let me tell you why I love it. First, I love the cinematic widescreen aspect ratio, and I'm really eager to create more widescreen cinematic work. And from the perspective of shot framing and composition, this lens is like having stabilizers on your first bike. With this lens attached to my camera, there's only one way to compose your shots and your scene, and that's cinematic widescreen. If you're using a regular lens, the GH5 does have a really handy little option for widescreen guidelines on your camera LCD screen, just to help you know where to frame your image if you plan to crop it in post. But frankly, these are too faint, and it's really easy to accidentally fill the frame with your image, which then makes it really awkward to crop later without losing an otherwise really good composition. I have a FeelWorld external monitor that has a great crop guide, which makes it much easier to visualize your cinematic framing, but it's rarely convenient to work with when you're working fast and traveling light. So that's my first reason. The Sirui Anamorphic forces me to only compose for a wide screen shot. The second reason is that it gives me an anamorphic cinematic standard to compare all my other lenses to. It becomes the ground zero starting point that all other lenses need to match up to and blend seamlessly with. The final reason is, frankly, it makes me feel warm and fuzzy and all creative when I use it. It's not a logical, rational or sensible reason, it's entirely emotional, and sometimes that's absolutely fine. Sometimes we have gear that makes us feel like we want to create, gear that inspires us and focuses our creative attention. And if something helps you create better work, even if it's just like a creative emotional crutch, then that's fine. There is actually a fourth reason why I'm keeping this lens that would really blow your mind. The secret feature that almost nobody talks about that could revolutionize the virtual reality industry. But I'm going to keep that for another video. Subscribe if you want to see it. But before I go, where does that leave my trusty Nifty 50 and Viltrox combo? Do I keep it? Do I ditch it? Well, this little lens gives me one thing that the Sirui Anamorphic does not: a really close focal distance. Now the Sirui Anamorphic will only focus as close as 85cm, but the Yongnuo will focus at just 35cm. So if I want to get really close to something for a cutaway close-up B-roll shot, this lens is awesome. And frankly, everybody is getting hung up about the Sirui for being rubbish for close-ups, but it wasn't built for that. It wasn't built for vlogging, it wasn't built for reactive home movies with your children. Believe me, I know. It was built to work with actors, and most of the time you're never going to get much closer than the close-up face shot that you get from about 85cm away. The Yongnuo also acts as a really useful backup lens for my second GH5 when I want to shoot a pair of over-the-shoulder shots in a dialogue scene. Oh, and it's lighter than the Sirui, and the Viltrox adapter gives it electronic aperture control, which the Sirui doesn't have. And also the normal aspect ratio is more versatile if I want to use the shots in other videos if I need to. But that's it. I mean, what do you think? Which way would you go? Sirui? Yongnuo? Both? Or something else? Comment below, my friends, and give this video an algorithm boost. If you enjoyed this gear review and you'd like to see more, then subscribe and click the notifications bell, because I'm going to make a series of these videos about some of the unconventional gear I use and why I use it the weird way I do. And finally, a great big thank you to Lauren Leaves for adding glitz, glamour, style and sparkle to this video, and of course for being a terrific actress. See you next time. We'll focus at just 80. Stop. I'm talking about this Sirui, not you, Sirui. I don't care. Sirui, stop it, because I'm talking about this Sirui. It's not funny. Sirui? I'm Haydn Rushworth. I'm a flipping Sirui, not this Sirui. That Sirui. Is it Sirui? Is it Sirui? Sirui? Sirui. Sirui. I've been saying it all wrong probably, but everybody says Sirui. I don't know how it's pronounced.